What is up, everyone? Damn, hell yeah, we got another versus on the way. Here with me today, I have Mr. Al.
Mr. Al.
What is up, Al? Alright, so for our second episode of the DangerVille versus, we are going to be talking about the GRAUG versus the ENTS. Alright, so let's talk about the GRAUGs first. First off, I made a lore video on the GRAUGs recently, and I'm going to put a link to that down in the description, and at the end of the video, you can click straight onto it and go and watch that. But, long story short, GRAUGs.
GRAUGs.
What they pretty much, GRAUGs. Don't say GRAUGs, you'll get bitched at. What the GRAUGs are, apparently, they're pretty much the Lord of the Rings version of a Rancor. Big beast. All they really do is eat shit and, like, destroy stuff. Big claws, big mouth, probably 15, 20 feet tall. Big mofos.
Big mofo.
Alright, big mofos. So that's the short of the GRAUG. Now, Al, what do you feel about the GRAUGs from your kind of casual take on them from what you've seen?
Well, they're big and beefy. What can you say about them? They're just huge, disgusting monsters that will pretty much, well, they like the prime species. They will just hunt everything around them. So it's going to be interesting to see how a tree fares up against it.
Alright, well, these aren't just any normal trees, Alistair. Obviously, the Ent is like a tree mixed with a person mixed with a giant badass. You know, like, most of them seem like they have some sort of intelligence. Definitely more than a GRAUG. If you ever look at a GRAUG, they just go and all they want to do is eat stuff.
Yeah, just like my ex.
Exactly, just like her. See, and the Ent actually has a little bit more kind of thinking involved. You know, they're like us. The smarter versions of us. You know, they can actually kind of, plan and strategize. And if you've seen the Two Towers Lord of the Rings film, you'd seen plenty of this when they were attacking Saruman and his tower and just destroying everything. So they're not just normal trees by any means. So if the two were to meet up in Shadow of War, how would this go down? First off, let's talk about how the Ent could be put into the game. They weren't in Shadow of Mordor. So, Al, what do you think a big giant tree could be put into, Shadow of War? How do you think it would work?
Well, I think because the faction, if it was introduced as a faction, it'd be really interesting because obviously you've got forests and that's huge potential for like tons of characters. Like, who knows which tree?
Yeah, we already have.
Character?
We already have Karnan, the new character, that's pretty much like a female, not really an Ent, but kind of like an Ent.
Kind of like an Ent.
So she's like a forest spirit. So they already got that forest setup involved. I mean, it'd be kind of bizarre if there wasn't a random Ent or two that just came out of the woods and was like, oh,
yeah,
like
it's only one of the most iconic
awesome
things of like Middle Earth.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty dang unique to Lord of the Rings is their the Ents, and that's cool. It definitely is like like hippie power, tree power, love, man. You got the freaking trees, and it's cool to see them involved. And yeah, like you said, a faction in Shadow of War. I mean, they're smart, so they could talk to you. You could have dialogue with an Ent. There could actually be like an Ent. Well, it wouldn't be like an Ent town, but it would be like an Ent moot, I think is what they're called, and that's just kind of where they meet up and gather. It's kind of like a town for them in some weird way. So yeah, that'd be kind of an interesting, take on getting them into the game. Now, if they were in the game, all right, let's hear it.
If Treebeard was to smoke some weed,
I'd give anything for a whiff of old Toby.
Would that be cannibalism?
I think it would be, because in the Two Towers special edition version of the movie, there's actually a scene where Merry and Pip are getting high as fuck in a little freaking room, and you see Treebeard. He like comes in and like the smoke comes up on them. They're going on that old Toby, and they're like and he smells it, and he's like, oh, and you can tell he's just like, man, this is not good. He's taken.
It's like, that's my son.
He's taken away a little bit. You can tell that he's definitely not into it. So no, I don't think Treebeard smokes weed. Confirmed. All right, so Al, question for you: if the Ents were in the game, like other than them being a faction, how do you think they would play? Do you think you'd be able to use them to fuck up shit, or would they just be static, kind of standing there? What would you want to see?
Well, if you had like a squad mechanic, you could potentially have like a whole like patrol of these Ents, and you can use them at your disposal. You can use them to fight with you, and it could be awesome. And I know you can control the GRAUGs,
Orcs and all
the
that.
GRAUGs
and the GRAUGs,
you can control them.
Yeah.
If you could do the similar kind of thing with, say, like the Master Ent, like the one that was lead all the other Ents, and you can do that. You could just charge into battle, and then maybe attack.
They would kind of follow you a little bit.
And use them to attack the GRAUG or any other huge beast from Middle-earth.
Monster. Yeah, exactly. And that kind of brings a point real quick we'll hit on, is that the Shadow series, all you can ever take over is orcs or different types of bad guys, Like, why don't we have in our army the occasional good guys? Now, we've seen that there's humans in Shadow of War. Maybe they'll be involved, but your actual, like, the in-game, like the actual game part, of your followers, it's always orcs or some sort of that sort of, fashion. So it'd be cool to see, like you said, the Ents kind of be like, hey, I'm going to get some Ents to come help me storm this castle. Now, that is freaking wonderful idea, Al. You've been studying, man.
Thank you. Yes, I have.
Fucking right. All right. Good idea. So, we are nearing the end now, so we're going to talk about the actual fight. All right, Al. I'm the actual... I already got my plans and said I'm the freaking Middle-earth nerd, but I want to hear what you think if a big-ass GRAUG and an equally big-ass Ent got into a big old fist fight. What would happen?
Well. If you were to put the GRAUG and an Ent one-on-one, I've got to say the GRAUG would absolutely demolish an Ent. I mean, you've got this huge, raging monster, and then you've got a tree. Now, as badass as this tree can be, we know how badass they can be. It's going to get destroyed by this humongous piece of flesh and muscle. And
a GRAUG is pretty much a big giant monster with chainsaws on its hands.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like the idea going on. And, we all know what chainsaws can do to trees. So,
but
that is right, Al. That is really right.
You had a pack of Ents, which would be what's natural. You'd have loads of Ents. They'd be in groups because, that's how they do. They're like an army. Then they would just beat the living hell out of the GRAUG. Like, they'd be able to strategize it good. And he'd be like, shit, I underestimated the Ents. So don't underestimate them if they're in a huge group, but one-on-one,
all right. Well, you're very right on that, but there is one point of why I would say, now I agree that one-on-one, more than likely, a GRAUG would kick the hell out of an Ent. But there's one thing that you're kind of forgetting that kind of goes about something else we talk about, Al.
But what?
The Ent is kind of like King Kong to the GRAUG is kind of like the Skullcrawlers.
Okay.
If an Ent can grab a rock, smash him. It knows how to use weapons. It can get a tree. It can whap him in the face. It can do all that stuff that a GRAUG normally wouldn't think to do because their brains are probably like the size of a walnut. So, but do Ents even have brains? Good question.
Yeah, tree brains.
Tree brains. So they're able to get up rocks. They could truck it at them, big giant boulders, all that stuff. So
they have the advantage of tools, but
they have the advantage of tools. It just would depend. In a tree environment, Ent all the way. In a plain, open, vast, like deserty, nothing around them kind of arena, like nothing to help the Ent out, the GRAUG's probably gonna rip him limb from limb.
Or branch from branch.
Or branch from branch, whatever you guys want to get across. So, that's what me and Mr. Alistair think. Now is where we want to know what you guys think. Join the discussion below. Tell us who would win between a GRAUG and an Ent. And once you get done with that, tell us how you think an Ent could actually be placed into Shadow of War. We don't necessarily know that they're going to be in the game. We both think they should. But if you ever had them in the game, in the series, tell us how you would have them in there. And if you have any other versus ideas, let us know. So on that note, we are going to dip out. This is Jacob. And that is...
Alistair.
And we will see you next time. Peace out.
Peace out.